Good evening, everyone. Thank you for taking the time to be here with us tonight. Welcome to A Portrait and Leadership, hosted by the Women's History Initiative of the Historical Society of Palm Beach County. I'm Maria Antuna, the CEO of the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce of Palm Beach County, and I'm a proud member of the Society's Board of Governors. Please note our list of sponsors and host committee who made this year's event possible in celebration of Women's History Month. We appreciate them all. I would also like to acknowledge my fellow board members and thank you for your leadership. At this time, I would like to introduce our moderator for tonight, Felicia Rodriguez. Felicia was born, yes, I agree. Felicia was born in the Bronx to Puerto Rican parents and moved to South Florida as a teenager. She holds a telecommunication degree from the University of Florida and a meteorology degree from Mississippi State University. After starting her broadcast career in Panama City Beach, Felicia joined WPBF 25 News in 1998. She now anchors the 5, 6, and 11 p.m. news. Her work has been recognized with Emmy Award as a Hispanic Woman of Distinction in South Florida and as a recipient of the Esperanza Women of the Year Award. Beyond the newsroom, Felicia is actively involved in community causes while mother to a school-aged daughter and stepmother to 2 young women. Welcome, Felicia Rodriguez.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you, my friend Maria. That was a lovely introduction. And hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. Are you guys excited about tonight? I gotta tell you, I was thrilled to be here today. This is actually my first in-person event, the first time I'm emceeing an event in person in more than 2 years.
Wow.
So I am thrilled. I'm happy to be sharing the stage with these lovely women, and no better time than Women's History Month. So let's get started. As I said, I'm honored to be among such distinguished women here who are truly leaving their mark on Palm Beach County. The 4 women on our panel are all history makers in each of their lives. They affect our entire county and often well beyond. Today you will hear how they reach this point, what they think on matters outside of their realms, and how they would advise those who follow in their footsteps. It is difficult to be brief about their achievements, but I will try. So let's begin with a short bio on each of our panelists. We'll begin with Fabiola Brumley at the end. Fabiola has been president of Bank of America Palm Beach County for 15 of her 39 years with the bank. She is also its senior public policy lead for the Southeast. Fab immigrated to the U.S. as a child from Beirut, Lebanon, speaking only French and Arabic. She began her career at 13, working for her father, a CPA and CFO for a large firm. Her formal education came from Florida Atlantic University, where she earned a bachelor's degree in accounting and an MBA. Her work is very community-minded. Beyond Palm Beach County, she has been a global ambassador for emerging women leaders in Brazil through a nonprofit called Vital Voices, started by Hillary Clinton and Madeleine Albright. Fab is married with 3 adult children and 2 grandchildren. Now, unfortunately, Ava Parker, president of Palm Beach State College, was unable to join us here, but we are pleased to say that the college is still very well represented tonight. Jarnika, known as Nika Coleman Farrell, is vice president of academic affairs and interim provost at the Palm Beach Gardens campus of Palm Beach State College, our county's largest educational institution. A Palm Beach County native, she holds 4 degrees from its institutions, including a PhD in educational leadership. She has 26 years of broad instructional and administrative experience, in part at 3 campuses of PBSC, where she received Professor of the Year recognition. She has served the Association of Florida Colleges in several roles, including as president. As a change agent for underserved populations, Nika mentors girls in grades 6 through 8 through the West Palm Beach chapter of the National Coalition of 100 Black Women. Nika. Frances Fisher is a philanthropist and so much more. She is a native of Tuscaloosa, where she graduated from the University of Alabama. She served in the White House as a special assistant to the counsel for George H.W. Bush and member of the advance team for First Lady Barbara Bush. She then co-founded the National Environmental Policy Institute to promote community stewardship. Here in Palm Beach County, she has continued good deeds in a long list of ways for a long list of needs, including history and women. Frances and her husband, Jeffrey, have 1 adult son. Welcome, Frances. And finally, Sarah Wettenhall is owner and CEO of the Colony Hotel, Palm Beach's historic Pink Paradise. There's no mistaking. I love this dress. She started life in the Midwest and moved around until attending Vanderbilt University in New York City. During 10 years in public relations, she marketed major fashion houses and developed a strong sensibility for the luxury market. She and her husband, Andrew, purchased the Colony in 2016 from his father's partnership, and Sarah has elevated it in style while preserving its history. She was named one of Hotel Magazine's top 10 independent hoteliers in 2021. She and Andrew have 3 young children. Please welcome our panelists. Now, in addition to filling some important leadership positions, all of these women have served the community in so many ways, including serving on boards. And in these roles, they impact parts of others' lives. Let's find out how they gain these positions of influence. We are going to start with Frances. Frances, do you recall, as a young girl, being aware of limitations, perhaps, put on you by others, or maybe even on yourself, connected with being a female? Did it ever enter perhaps your thought process that you couldn't do that because you were a girl?
Well, I grew up in the Deep South, and this is, many years ago, let's just say. So for someone of my era to want to leave the comfort of their roots when that's not expected. What was expected of women at my time where I grew up was you were going to get married, hopefully you went to college, and you'd have children and make a family. So it was a very traditional sense of how women grew up. And I had wonderful tradition from my family in the place I lived, great roots. But I couldn't kick hard enough to get out of the gate when I had an opportunity, and that's what took me to DC for an early career opportunity. So, that really shaped my life going forward.
Did you know as a young girl, once you reached your teenage years, you were going to be different? You were going to get out of...
I did. I had served in enough leadership roles in high school and with the activities I was involved in, and watched my mother and my father. They were great heroic examples of leadership in a community. So that gave me a stepping stone, and the minute I got a chance, I
were out of
wanted
there.
to see what was out there. Yes.
Thank you, Frances. Fabiola, let me ask you, can you recall deciding that you were suited for a leadership role?
That's a great question. I don't think I ever personally sort of evaluated myself to say, to come to a conclusion that, I was going to be a leader. I think what transpired is at a very young age is helping others and, trying to be my best, which is something fostered by my parents, trying to just always give your best and then help others. I mean, those were the two things that sort of went hand in hand. So as I achieved, even in school, learning something different, or whether it was in sports or music, the very next step was automatically help someone else achieve what you've achieved, what you've learned, and attain that. So at a very early age, I started seeing myself being given opportunities to lead. And then when they started giving titles, even in middle school or high school around leadership, I found myself getting those, citizenship recognition, or, captain recognition, or, vice president, and so on. And it just was organically developing. I never really stopped to say, oh, I'm going to become a leader. It just sort of evolved organically for me.
And I guess if you apply that to your work, and the opportunities that came before you, and you say to yourself, am I ready for this? These opportunities that are coming my way, is this a job I can do? Is this an opportunity that I can handle? Am I ready for this?
Yeah, absolutely. I think at a young age, and I'm an introvert, so I know we've had that conversation with others, and so my natural tendencies are to just do what I'm supposed to do, help someone else, but not really. I don't like being on this stage right now. It just takes a lot of energy for me to be here. However, I recognize that when you are in a leadership role, there are things you have to do. You have to sort of suck it up and do it, because that's the way you help others. And so I think that's what really, over time, helped me develop as a better leader, is to just recognize that, I've got some shortcomings, but I need to still step forward and help others. And fortunately for me, I'm surrounded by a lot of great talent.
We're among friends.
That's right. That's right.
Nika, let me ask you, as a native of Palm Beach County, how have you seen life change for women here in the county?
That is an excellent question as well. When I think back to growing up, I am a Palm Beach Gardens High School Gator. And born
Please tell us your title.
Yeah, okay, I will announce I am the first African American Miss Palm Beach Gardens High School. And so I can tell you that my quick response to that question is the fact that Palm Beach State College, we started in 1933. The fact that our president, currently our 5th president, President Ava Parker, is the first African American female president of Palm Beach State College, that speaks to the evolution of the college. And her leadership is, it radiates through the fact that her selection of who leads and how they lead, and her mentorship trickles down in the fact that I was given that opportunity to be as the first African American female vice president of academic affairs. That would be my quick response. But the real response for me is the fact that when I look around as a little girl and I think back when I was growing up and I was, looking at the landscape here in Palm Beach County, to know that we now have fabulous women that are leading, fabulous women like these ladies up here on this stage, CEOs, philanthropists, doing major things, knowing that we have judges that are in office within our county. I remember this conversation in the kitchen with my mother one day. I said to her, tell me your dreams. And she said to me, well, I dreamed about being a doctor. She is a fabulous nurse, right? My point is, when I said to her, I've been thinking about what I want to do when I grow up. She said, when I was coming up, being a nurse, there were certain limitations on women at that time. So when I grew up, she said, I decided that since it was not going to be in the cards for me at that time to be a doctor, I would be the next best thing. But you, young lady, you have an opportunity. And I want you to know you can be and do absolutely everything that you can be. So, like Fabiola, knowing that we are in a spirit of service, I've always thought about being that change agent and looking at the change agents across the life of Palm Beach County. And we see them in all different companies, industries, and levels of who we are, including higher education. And that's why I can be proud to say that I'm a proud resident of Palm Beach County.
Now I know why you give such inspiring talks to 6th and 8th grade girls. I want to go to one of those. Sarah, how do you think your leadership style reflects your gender? As a woman, do you think you run things differently because you're female?
I think that's a great question. We try to instill at the colony a culture of kindness and leading with kindness. That's a large piece of who we are at the hotel, particularly because what we're doing is creating memories and holidays and wonderful lifetime experiences for our guests. And that can't happen if it doesn't come from a place of kindness and a place of openness. And that's where, as a leader and as a woman, I think there's a myth out there that many girls and other females have, that to be a woman in business, to be a leader, you have to maybe discard kindness or set kindness in a corner and have a different persona when you're in the office or when you're leading a meeting that maybe has to be a little more cold, a little more calculating. It can't come from a place that has an open heart. And I believe my philosophy, my strategy is to discard that, to say that that's untrue, that you can lead with kindness, you can create space in the room for others, women, men, anyone, and by leading with kindness, you can lift other people up, and that's really what this is all about.
I like that. That's beautiful. Now, this is something I know all of us have been asked and talked about, but Frances, I'll ask you, how do you stay grounded with everything going around, everything going on in your life?
Faith. It's that simple for me. That's the anchor, the compass. I love my walk with God. I hope it continues to get stronger every day. And I feel fortunate and blessed for my life. I think that level of gratitude and taking time for it, not just to feel thankful for what you have, but for the people around you. And in any leadership role, whether that's professional or personal growth, those are the people that shape your life and make it special. And so, yeah, definitely my faith.
Fabiola, I'll ask you this. In the banking industry, which in the past years was so male-dominated, are you conscious of representing your gender in your professional role?
That's a great question. I don't think I've ever thought about representing my gender. However, I definitely think that in financial services historically, it has been male-dominated. And so I think I feel more of an obligation to make sure that I'm creating space for women in a way that helps them achieve their career goals. So I think that's the way I think about representing women in these services. And for the men in the room, I have been a product of a lot of male advocacy. And so I think just like being an ally, you want to be an advocate for others when you see hard work around you. And I have to credit the men and the women that have helped shape my career. But I do think that it is really important, especially in the pandemic. The last couple of years have been extremely stressful on everyone, but specifically for women. And my children are grown, but I see women in our company who have had to deal with teaching their kids at home. And, school districts and schools have had to pivot to help them do that. And those are unprecedented, trials or pilots, if you will. So a lot of women just didn't have the strength to do that. And I found myself trying to encourage. I held, virtual roundtables and just moments of just unplug and join me and let's just talk about what you're dealing with. And having that space for them to sort of share what they need at least in my company, those voices being lifted up really helped shape, we've increased our mental health benefits, we've helped the women in our company as a result of that. And we've provided more backup child care services, elder care, which is something I deal with personally, services. And so I think it's really important as a leader to represent our gender, because there are needs that are sometimes differentiated that maybe we can help. So whether you're an employer or you're a manager or a leader or you're just a bystander, providing that space for them to be able to lift their voices, and then assuming that responsibility, making sure you advocate for that, has been a real, I think, a real blessing for me, because we've been able to do that. And then when flexibility is necessary, to make sure that you're providing that and helping others understand. Because if you either not have children or you're in a different place in your life, you may not necessarily, sort of understand what a woman is going through during those periods. And I think the last couple of years have been really important in that arena. Make sure
You can say it, unprecedented times. We're all tired of hearing it, but
we're tired of hearing it, but it's definitely never done before.
no, you're right. I mean, we've all been through it though, and it's nice to hear that companies have made exceptions and have changed the way. We've all had to change the way, we've done things, and hopefully for the better, right?
Exactly.
We all know that women of color deal with double the challenges, not only gender-based, but race-based as well. How did you overcome that bias, Mika?
It's so interesting. I always tell people when we talk about race, ethnicity, discrimination, stereotypes, I tell them that, first of all, having a spirit of positivity, first and foremost. I realize that oftentimes we are uncomfortable about things that we don't understand. So in growing up, my parents always spoke to me about the importance of respecting others and giving the respect that we expect as well. So I govern myself with respect to decisions I make, how I engage with others based on how I would like to be treated. And I find that behavior informs, educates on its own, and it oftentimes inspires others to reach outside of themselves. I think that is a way in which we can help one another to be able to overcome those things that we don't necessarily understand. I will tell you, I don't allow, I always tell my team, I'm not a wilt-ring flower, so it's okay if we are approached by the challenges at times of gender bias or racism, but you utilize that as an opportunity to educate. Those are opportunities to excel. Those are opportunities to inform others about who you are and who they can be within your world. And I believe that has served a purpose for me in being able to push others forward, push women of color forward to be able to say, you know what, I see you and I celebrate you in spite of whatever anybody else may have told you. You are amazing. Let that shine.
Beautifully said.
Keep going.
Yeah, beautifully said. Sarah, I wanted to ask you, how has the awareness of or preservation of Palm Beach County history played a role in your work? I would imagine trying to keep the hotel looking beautiful and modern and chic at times has kind of like, it's like, but we still want to preserve the history of the colony.
It is a constant balancing act.
Yeah.
There's many tightropes that we walk, but history and preservation is core to our mission at the colony and always has been. My husband Andrew and I purchased it in 2016, and my husband grew up coming to the hotel. I've been coming to the hotel since the late 90s, and so after we bought it, we kind of sat down and had our little glass of champagne, and then said, well, what are we going to do now? And first of all, a funny aside, we held hands and said, okay, let's just not burn it down the first year. Let's just keep the train on the track. Exactly. But The second comment, and more serious comment that we had is, what do we want this to become, and what is our dream? Because we had years of hopes and dreams bottled up from when we came to the hotel as guests, and we would sit by the pool, we would walk around town and ask these what ifs, why not? And all of these dreams kind of culminated in this moment when we purchased it. And what that meant for me was, I'm a little bit about me. I'm an only child. I grew up moving around a lot, and so I'm very much comfortable in my own skin and comfortable with my own company. And I read a lot as a child and was a student of history, and fundamentally believe that to understand a place, you need to understand its history. And you need to respect that history, and you need to know that history. And the only way to do that is to tell that story. And so when I sat down at my computer and started writing the mission statement of what we wanted to accomplish at the colony, it was to bring that historic legacy of not only the colony, but Palm Beach and Palm Beach County forward, and marry that with the current needs and desires of today's travelers. And again, going back to the tightrope, it's a constant tightrope, especially when you look at a 75-year-old building, 10 steps from the ocean. It is a constant struggle to keep the building moving and operating and healthy and happy, and to marry that together with a guest experience that, again, accommodates our modern travelers in today. People go a lot of places and they have a lot of different experiences, so how can we offer them something that's authentic to Palm Beach, but at the same time competitive in the national and international stage?
That's difficult.
It is.
Yes.
Frances, philanthropy is often misunderstood. It attempts in private initiatives to address the cause of a problem, not just relieve the symptoms for the public good. Can women without great financial resources also make a difference?
Thank you for that question, because there's no doubt about it. Everyone has that special gift that they can use to enhance the lives of others. And it doesn't really relate to your level of financial giving. It relates to your passion and what you're called to do to help other people. I had a great experience early on in my life, and I think you referenced it, but being a part of George H.W. Bush's White House, he initiated a Points of Light campaign that was nationwide, and it went from everyone in that circle, from cabinet level, senior staff on down, to being a part of interacting with people throughout the entire country on a volunteer basis. And I think then having this great opportunity to move to Palm Beach at the center of philanthropy, really not just for our country, but in this world. It was so motivating to me to have had that experience and then enter into something in a volunteer realm where I could lend hands-on support, not just financial support and resources, and be a part of that in a lot of different arenas. So we're very fortunate in this community. It's unique, but every community has its opportunities, its causes, and its people who want to give back, and we're seeing that now, particularly with the situation in Ukraine. I'm so proud of what is coming out of Palm Beach County for that relief effort in what is, of course, the biggest humanitarian crisis we've seen since World War II.
Right.
So
I think people often forget too that, the donations are wonderful, but there's always the boots on the ground effort.
absolutely.
And you always need, the volunteers, the man hours. So if you can't donate financially, then donate of your time. And that's what we always tell people. Well, how can I get involved? I can't give more than $20. Hey, you can volunteer. If you have a couple of hours to give, call them. You can certainly give of your time, and people don't often think of that. When they hear donate, they automatically assume donate money.
Well, and you never know what your investment of that time may mean to someone else's life on that day and in that moment, even if that is a smile and a greeting or a welcome somewhere. Yes, philanthropy takes many forms.
It certainly does. Well, thank you for everything you do in the community. Fabiola, I wanted to ask you, without naming names, how have you dealt with gender discrimination in the workforce?
It's a great question. So discrimination it's not just gender, right? So there's a lot of different types of discrimination, but I think I tend to do it two ways. Number one, if it's directed at me, I try very hard, it's probably not the appropriate thing to do, but dismiss it, because it comes from a lack of education on the part of whoever it is that is sort of administering that. But I have a real passion around when I see it happen to someone else. And I think that's really where I think you have to be an advocate, you have to be an ally, and you have to speak up. So that's really where I see whenever I have seen it. And it's not about names, because I think we all suffer from unconscious bias, and it comes out in all different ways. Early in my career, I'll tell you, it was a little, I think we call them now, we didn't have a name for them back then, but microaggressions or whatever you want to call them. But back in my early part of my career, it was just, you have a meeting and you're around the table, and then the meeting's over, and the guys, no offense, because this is really just part of being, friends, right? And relating to someone else, would say, let's go grab a beer, and I was never included in that, in that. So it would be a little thing, but those bonds get formed over that social gathering. And so at that time, there was no name for it, but I just knew I wasn't part of that, right? I just wasn't part of that in crowd. So I think what it did is it made me a stronger leader as time went on, because I tend to find the person in the room that is different from everyone else, and it's very easy to notice if you're looking for it. And make sure that that voice gets heard, make sure that I relate to that person and that others see it. Then all of a sudden, it's really a strange thing, strange dynamic, but if you acknowledge someone in the room that no one else is acknowledging, and you're a leader, you watch. Immediately, everyone else starts saying, oh, this person must be, important, or must have something that I don't know. And it makes that person a little more interesting. So I think that's what I've learned over time, and thank goodness today, we suffer less from that, but I think it's because we are so conscious of that, and it works. So I didn't name any names there, Felicia.
No, you didn't.
I'm making sure. But I wanted to say one more thing, if you don't mind.
No, absolutely.
When Francis was talking, it reminded me of, giving of your treasure, but also giving of your time. I think one thing that I would just say for any employers in the room or anyone listening, my company worked really hard at trying to get volunteerism up and so on, and we're big, philanthropists as a company, as a foundation. But what we started doing is saying, okay, if you will tell us where your heart is, where you're volunteering, for every 50 hours that you amass in volunteer hours, we're going to give $500 to that charity.
That's
of your
wonderful.
choice. And I think what it did is, number one, it increased volunteerism, because now, for those who couldn't afford to just write the check, they knew their employer would write the check. And I think that has gone a long way to reinforce that. And then if they give, we'll match that as well. So I think there are ways that we can get creative and drive more philanthropy in the community by engaging with our employees.
Our company, Hearst Television, 2 years ago during the pandemic, they started an initiative where they gave employees a day off as long as you said where you were volunteering, and you registered with the company you were volunteering for the day. You got a day off for volunteering there. I was like, sign me up. Yeah. I'd have volunteered anyway, but I just thought that was such a great initiative for the people who perhaps wouldn't necessarily volunteer, that it would make them think about it, so I thought that was a great thing. Was that, anybody else want to say anything about what Fabiola was talking about with discrimination in the workplace?
I just wanted to comment that and say thank you for describing that, because when you said, for lack of a better word, you dismissed it, I immediately thought to myself, aha, you changed the energy in that moment by simply not giving that negative energy more energy. And so your response, what it did for those that were in the room, whoever you were engaging in conversation with, what you did was you changed the diaspora of that conversation that very moment. And that is how we inform and we educate, right? And then lastly, I want to say, well, you know what? It's not too late to go out. I don't drink beer, but we can do something.
Nika's like, you didn't invite me, but I'm going to invite myself. I love you. And that's why she's the boss. Fab is fab.
That's it.
All right. Nika, I'm going to start with you, and this is a question I'm going to ask each of you ladies as we close things out here on our panel. Would you help close us out with some mentoring advice for the young women who are in our audience today watching?
Absolutely. What I would say is always live with the mantra of people first. As you grow in your professional careers, as you grow spiritually, as you grow personally, people first. I have found that when you put people first in your leadership roles and everything that you do, you build those relationships, and then the rest will come. I think that when we keep people first, integrity, character, be honest and transparent. At the end of the day, when you look at yourself in the mirror, you will see someone that you absolutely can be proud of and know that you made a change throughout the lives that you touched throughout that day. So that would be my response.
I love that. Frances?
What a beautiful question. I think, live with joy, reflect on your blessings, and be true to yourself. I think authenticity is so important and really important in today's world. I have a son headed off to college, and I think every day I remind him, stay who you are, and be the person you want to be as an example to other people. And that's a pretty simple recipe for success in life, no matter what you're challenged with or come across.
Absolutely. Sarah?
I think, someone once said to me that life is a juggling act, and being a woman in a leadership position is a constant juggling act. Personally, I have 3 young kids, and as we said earlier, I live a double life between Palm Beach and New York City, and there's always a lot of balls in the air. But someone once said to me that the key to that is learning which balls you can drop. That you're juggling glass balls and you're juggling plastic balls. And the sooner you can come to terms with the fact that you're going to drop some plastic balls sometimes, and that's okay.
I love that.
What's important is learning which balls are glass and making sure that the glass ones never hit the ground.
That's a great one.
That's powerful.
That's fab. We'll give you the final thought.
I was thinking, oh my gosh, I'm not going to follow these 3 women with advice. They're so awesome. Well, I would say, there's so many great things that I've heard, and I am a woman of faith, so I really believe in that. And part of that is that you're going to make mistakes. We're going to make mistakes. We still make mistakes every single day. So I believe in you make a mistake, you ask for forgiveness, and you move forward. So don't look back. I think sometimes, and I don't know if it's just women, but a lot of women I know tend to replay and revisit. I call it revisiting in your mind scenarios that are in the past, and we need to let that go. Once we have evaluated the scenario, whatever it is, the failure, the whatever you want to call it, it's a life experience, and just not have regrets, because you can't get that time back when you're dwelling on something. So that would be my advice. I'll ask Nika how to put it in really good format, because she delivers it.
We all
really
have
well.
to go to one of Nika's sessions,
Yes,
right?
yes, you do.
Well, I just want to say thank you to all of you wonderful ladies, because it truly has been a pleasure sitting here and listening to your stories and listening. Thank you for being open and honest today. And because of all of your hard work and dedication and your struggles, you have helped open so many doors for the women who have come after you. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And now we would like to open it up to see if anyone in our audience has questions for our lovely panel.
I'd be interested to know what you, every day when you look at your list of challenges, which one pops out at you the most?
I would say, well, for me anyway, I can get overwhelmed by just looking at my calendar. But there's something I don't forfeit every day. I wake up very early and I don't go work out at the gym, but I do spend an hour in the morning in a quiet time. And by the end of that time, I don't feel like anything is really that challenging. And probably something my father used to always say, nothing is too easy and nothing is too hard. You just got to roll up your sleeves and do the work.
Yeah.
And so I come at the day that way, and it seems to work out.
Good philosophy.
I think, just jumping off what Fab just said, I try to take everything one day at a time. And in fact, people will often run into me and be like, oh, am I seeing you at something, something, something in 2 days from now? And I'll say, honestly, I don't know.
Yeah.
Right.
I will address 2 days from now, 2 days from now.
Yeah.
Right now I'm focused on today, and I wake up every morning and I assess my schedule and I assess what I hope to accomplish, and I set a list of goals. I try to very purposely make the goals that I set attainable, and the list is short every day because we all want to win. We all want to feel really great when we go to bed and feel like we accomplished what we wanted to accomplish, and I know that my day is going to start out looking one way, and it's going to take a right or a left turn and look completely different by that evening. And so I try to create space in the schedule, space in my goal setting, so I can handle those right and left turns, and at the end of the day not feel like I failed or like I have regrets or I didn't accomplish what I set out to accomplish.
You need to be honest and just tell them, listen, I'm not sure if that ball's going to drop today, so.
Right.
When I sort out if it's glass or plastic, I'll call
I'm
you.
not sure if it's the plastic ball that's dropping or not, so I'll let you know. Anybody else have questions?
Thank you. Not so much a question as a statement. This has been an extraordinary evening, and I want to thank you all very much. You have given us, men and women, so many important takeaways. Each one of you has said something that I will never forget, and I appreciate that. And I want to thank Jeremy and the Thank you. And one last word, thanking Jeremy and the Historical Society for all the good work that you do. And you do such a great thing for this county, and we're privileged to be part of it.
Aw, thank you.
Thank you. It was an amazing speech session tonight, and I also have learned a lot from this event. One of the things that I wanted to ask any of the ladies that wish to answer is, what is the one thing that you would identify or credit with your success in your life? What is the one thing that brought you here today to where you are in your life?
Oh, that's a good question. Why didn't I ask that? All right, let's start with Fab.
Well, I'll start with God, and then my parents, and then the people. I honestly believe the people that I was surrounded by in my career. I think you have to really be intentional. I think Sarah used that word, intentional, about not just what you do, but who you surround yourself with. So that's what I would credit.
Francis?
Well, I'll echo Fab's response and also really applaud the Historical Society of Palm Beach County. I think panels like this one give us a tremendous collective identity and an opportunity to reflect on who we are, why we're here, and why we want to give back. But I'm motivated every day, and I've lived here now 25 years, by the people that I get an opportunity to work alongside, serve alongside, and be friends with. And that is a tremendous motivator if you're serving and you want to make an impact with other people, you want to be an example to other people. I serve with joy, and I feel that, you know, this is a community that gives us the chance to do that together.
Wow.
Well said.
How about that?
Oh, Nika, come on.
Well, you know, I am just so inspired by these ladies up here. Absolutely, God first in my life. I tell people that my life is not my own, and in understanding that and reminding myself every single day through the up days, and I'm a glass half full kind of gal, but you know, you have some days you can challenge you, that can really test your faith. But being reminded that your life is not your own, it gives you the power and the motivation to be able to keep going, even when you feel like you don't want to keep going. Also, the village. I have an amazing village, and believe it or not, at my house, I'm not the boss. I have an 11-year-old and a 21-year-old, and it's very interesting because they both represent, I think, different parts of my personality.
Oh, yeah.
So the real person that you want to have a session with is the 11-year-old. She's going to be the CEO, Val. But knowing that, but that village, I always tell people that, you know, you're only as successful as the people that you center yourself around, and you allow them to pour into you, and you allow them to be able to tell you not always yes, but tell you no and tell you why. And I attribute that to, you know, my success on so many different levels. They are the people that when I call and I am myself, which I'm myself up here today, but you know, there's a different person that comes out when you're upset about something. I mean, we're amongst family here. And they are the people that say to me, thank you for getting that out. Are you finished? And I say yes. And they say, okay. Let's talk about how we're going to do this better, and this is where we're going next, and this is how we're going to do that. You cannot build a village on your own, and being a change agent in other people's lives really does require you, as I stated earlier, to build those relationships, but also know that it's about the people out there that you serve. It really is. That's my motivation. That's my fire.
And I think, you know, I am here today because I was blessed to have a mentor. And it's a very, you know, he was a very distinct mentor who saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. And so, again, surrounding, you know, ourselves with people who are greater and larger than us. And for me, it was my father-in-law. When my husband and I were presented with buying the colony, I threw my hands up and said, no way. At that point, I had a 1-year-old. I was actually, you know, not technically homeless, but we were renovating an apartment in New York City. We were living in a tiny sublet, and I had a million reasons. Nonetheless, I had never worked in hospitality before, not to do it. A million reasons not to do it. And I had someone in my life sit me down and say, be brave. This is for you, and no one can do this but you. And every step that you took along the way brought you here today. From reading those books in your room, to traveling the world at age 16 by yourself, to your career in fashion and luxury. And it was only this mentor that saw me not how I saw myself. And so it's about that community. It's about who you surround yourself with. And listening to those other voices and trusting those other voices that are greater than you.
Absolutely.
Trusting yourself, you know, trusting the voice in yourself, too.
Do it afraid.
Totally.
Just do it. We have time for about 2 more questions.
Thank you. First of all, thank you all so much. I'm so proud to be here and be able to listen to 5 strong, wonderful women. Thank you. And this is a question for Sarah. So, especially from what you just said. You have how many daughters?
I have 2 daughters and 1 son.
Okay, so I raised 2 daughters and a son also. And my daughters got different advice from me than my son most of the time because I experienced their challenges. So I'd like to know what the advice to your daughters are going to be.
That's a great question because I've spent a lot of time thinking about that. I think people can be very flippant when talking about women in leadership roles and can say, oh, you can have it all. You can have it all. And I feel like I was told that a lot growing up. I was a child of the late 70s, early 80s. You know, women can do anything. You can have it all. You can have everything, Sarah. And I've been careful with my daughters to say to them that you can have it all, yes, but you're not going to have it all at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And anyone that tells you that you can have it all the time is lying to you.
That's right.
And so take a deep breath, look inside yourself, trust your gut. You can have it all. It's just, it's going to be parsed out over time.
Right.
And some days, glass balls and plastic balls, some days you won't have it all. And some days you really might be missing a piece of something. And that's okay, as long as you're following your dream and following your heart and being true to yourself. But don't believe those flippant people who will tell you that you can easily have it all.
Right. Really good advice.
Good evening. Mine is more a comment than a question, and I wish to echo the sentiments of the gentleman on the other side of the room. First, to thank the museum for this wonderful and auspicious event. It's a fabulous crowd of beautiful women who are movers and shakers and the men that support them. And my comment to all of you is, you know, there are little girls right now who are growing up on the south side of Chicago, Riviera Beach, and maybe even the New York City public housing units that I myself grew up in, who still see the world as one with limits. And you did raise a question about race and how that affects one's ability to become a female leader. I would love to see a world where we can get past that, but obviously we have one half of our country that wants to teach critical race theory and another half that despises equity and those conversations. I will say this, that there are little girls right now who were like myself growing up in public housing, who one day became middle-aged professors who realized the dream. So I think that we can actually have it all once we realize that there are no limitations. We can become newscasters, philanthropists, presidents of banks, CEOs and owners of hotels, and I'm a little bit partial to Dr. Chinjonica Coleman-Farrell, Vice President of Academic Affairs at Palm Beach State, where I teach as a blind professor, okay? So we can be presidents, vice presidents, because our vice president had to come here as a right-hand woman of President Parker in the flash of a dime. And we can become, and I'm gonna make a shout out here, county administrators of Palm Beach County, Virginia Baker. So, thank you all for your service to our community and to our gender and to our world, and I thank the museum.
Yeah, I got a question. So you all have mentors and it all helped you shape you where you are now. How are you paying it forward? Who are you mentoring now? Are you mentoring anybody or groups? Or I would like to know how you help other people now.
Mika, I know you said that you're mentoring.
Absolutely. So I have the awesome opportunity of being a part of the National Coalition of 100 Black Women. And upon being a part of that advocacy group for women's empowerment, part of that is mentoring young ladies. So that was something that was near and dear to my heart. That was a part of my decision to become a part of NCBW. But I will tell you, I spend my life's work every day at work. The thing that really pushes me and keeps me going is taking that time out for that young lady that comes in as a staff member that says, you know what, how did you get to where you are? You know, can you mentor me? Are you willing to do that? Being able to look out there, even through our talent acquisition piece, being able to look at that person that says, you know what, I don't have the laundry list of experience, but if you will give me a shot, bringing that person in, giving them that opportunity, and then mentoring them along the way, and saying to them, you know what, I'm not perfect. Perfection is not a requirement of the job, but striving for it is. And as long as you are tenacious and you have that drive, I'm going to walk alongside you. I always tell folks that we have formal mentors. I have formal mentors, and then I have informal mentors. I spend a lot of time just mentoring folks informally that just call up and say, you know, can you talk to me? Do you have a little bit of time for me? And what I say to them is, I'm never too busy for people. Mentoring is important because someone mentored me. There was someone, just as you stated, that poured into me, that saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. And so it's important for me to do the same, whether that is the team that I'm working with, where I'm a formal mentor of those that report to me, but also those people that are looking from afar, that are across the room, that are across the campus, that say, you know what, hey, you know, talk to me a little bit about how you achieved your goals. And lastly, what I would say is one of the things that I always tell them when I see these young ladies that come up and they say, ma'am, how did you get to where you are? I want to be just like you. In that moment in time, I remind them, don't be like me. I tell them, you want to be better than me. Now, are you interested in how you can do that? Because if you're interested in that, call me up. And I give them my card. Whether they're 5, 50, 15, here's my card. Call me up and let's talk about it. That's mentoring.
I love it. Anybody else? Fab? I know Fab wanted to say something.
Oh, no, I echo everything Nika said, and I want her card, but go ahead.
Well, I don't have a question, but I want to say thank you. I'm a graduate from Cambridge State College. I graduated as a young mother of 2. One of my kids is autistic with Asperger's syndrome. So today, I got from you what I always try to give to everyone. Something that I have in my head, in my heart, in my smile, in my say, everything that I say or do. And it's example. Thank you for the example that you gave to all of us.